Hey, what's up guys? NASJAQ here. In today's video, we're going to discuss Starlink, specifically the economics behind it and why SpaceX believes it is the driver to fund the Mars mission. The tech is pretty impressive too, but today's about the economics. Anyways, like and subscribe, and let's get on with it. You've probably heard of Starlink. SpaceX recently got approval from the FCC to launch nearly 12,000 satellites into various orbits. In February 2018, SpaceX launched two test satellites, Tintin-A and Tintin-B. Recently, on May 24th, 2019, a SpaceX Falcon 9 Block 5 lifted off from Cape Canaveral and delivered 60 satellites into a 500-kilometer orbit. It was great to watch, and some viewers even pointed out that you could see it from the sky, although other people pointed out that that might not be so great. So now that 60 satellites are confirmed working and successful, what now? What is this all for? Well, Elon's longtime goal has been to get to Mars, as you probably know. He established SpaceX to build the transportation technology between Earth and Mars and moons and other planets as well. But even with 67% year-over-year revenue growth in 2018, SpaceX is not producing enough revenue to get to Mars. The launch market is around $2.2 billion in 2018, whereas the internet market is much larger. Assuming the launch market even continues to grow at a moderate pace, it could maybe make $10 billion by 2024, but Elon himself has said that it might be capped at around $3 billion. As a side note, check out my calculations in the Google Sheet below. Feel free to copy it and do some calculations yourself. Let's be pretty generous and say $6 billion in launch revenue by 2024. That's definitely not enough to fund a Mars mission. This is why Elon is competing with telecom companies, the wealthiest and often most hated companies in America and the world, mostly due to the fact that they haven't had intense competition. As a result, AT&T's revenue was $177 billion in 2018, with $19 billion in profit, vastly greater than SpaceX's $2.5 billion launch revenue. Elon has publicly said he believes Starlink to be worth around $50 billion, with about $10 billion in upfront costs. To start this process, he raised $1 billion in 2019 that will also partly go towards the funding of Starship. So $50 billion for internet satellite. Let's dig into and see how those numbers work. First, we'll make an assumption. Falcon 9 Block 5 will always deploy 60 satellites per launch. Let's assume each launch costs about $60 million. This was confirmed on Twitter by Elon. And their goal is to start at 3 launches per year and make their way up to a launch per month. Given this launch rate of 60 satellites per launch, there will be 4,440 satellites in the 550-kilometer orbit by 2027. Yes, I know that is just phase 1 and not all the phases, but that's what we'll focus on right now. Also, I chose 2027 as the completion of phase 1 because the FCC filings state that half of the satellites have to be in orbit by 2024. I expect they'll be ahead of schedule, but they likely won't complete all of phase 1 by 2024. So the average annual Starlink deployment cost is around $500 million, with a total deployment cost of $4.5 billion for phase 1. I couldn't find exact operational cost figures, but the satellites have an expected lifetime of 5 years, so every 5 years there will be $500 million spent just replacing satellites. Now, let's assume an operating cost of around $2 billion. This is kind of hand-wavy, but if we look at Iridium, they spent $120 million on operations in 2018, and they have 66 satellites. So for a constellation that is 60 times larger, to assume an operation cost 30 times larger kind of makes sense given efficiencies at scale. Either way, this is totally a guess. To sum it up, 4,440 satellites by 2027 with launch and operating costs of approximately $2.5 billion annually. Now, what about the revenue? Elon has mentioned that each launch adds nearly a terabyte of additional capacity, with each satellite being 20 gigabytes per second of connectivity. Put that in perspective, each launch array can supply 4K streaming at 25 megabytes per second to 40,000 people simultaneously. That is insane. The average internet has 14 devices connected to the internet, and on average, these households use 200 gigabytes per month, per a 2017 report. So we're going to assume that's increasing over time as well. Let's take that 200 gigabytes and convert it to megabytes per second. That's about 0.07 megabytes per second. Now, this is totally like nobody's actually always using 0.07, but We'll just assume, given the total capacity of the system, we can figure out how many people that is. For example, in the beginning of 2024, after the FCC requirements are met, there should be around 50 terabytes per second available from the Starlink satellite constellation. Since there will be times of peak capacity, and most of the area is in isolated land or water, we'll assume each satellite is effective only 10% of the time. This still gives you access to 530 million customers, which is 4 times the number of households in the US. Conservatively, if each customer paid only $30 a month for connectivity, this is a total revenue of $28 billion or $25 billion after operating costs. That is 8 times greater than the current launch market revenue. That is game-changing revenue that will allow SpaceX to fund Mars. And in 3 more years, once phase 1 is completed, the total Starlink revenue from the 4,000 satellites is $58 billion. This is where that $50 billion is coming from. I might be conservative on the operating cost and bullish on the number of users, but this is the ballpark. That is how SpaceX was able to raise $1 billion for this ambitious project, simply because of the massive opportunity. And this doesn't even include specific revenue from high-frequency trading, being the backbone of stock exchanges or data transmission between cities. Bankers will pay billions for a decreased latency, and Elon has said that it should be even sub 20 milliseconds. That's crazy. I might do another video where our data rates are being capped by fiber optics, based on this awesome thread from Twitter, but that's another thing. Anyways, that's a baseline of 50 billion, and I'm sure that it can be even more than that. Anyways, if you like this video, just hit that like button, hit subscribe to get more videos. I'm going to be doing some SpaceX videos, some Tesla videos, and some Ray Dalio videos, so stay tuned for those, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.